So, hi everybody, it's James from Posture Stars, and today I am talking to Patricia Goka from Holistic PT Studio. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, James. How are you today?
Yeah, really good, thanks. It's great to see and hear you. You're down in Croydon in London, United Kingdom.
Yes, sunny Croydon.
Sunny Croydon, the jewel of the south.
It really is.
And I'm up here in Stockport. It's great to see you. I've wanted to speak to you for ages because you've been doing some great stuff, particularly on LinkedIn, with regards to how you're helping people keep stronger for longer. So I wanted to have a chat with you about how you're helping people's posture and how you're helping keep them more mobile. You're generally working with older people now, is that right?
Yes, although no one really admits they're quote unquote old, but yes, generally 50s plus is sort of is the average age I'm working with. Yeah.
All right, I'm one of your
great bunch.
I'm one of your ideal clients then.
We will have another talk, don't you worry, James. I'm here for you.
Well, I've been doing loads of running recently, so I probably need a bit of unwinding. Although my fitness watch yesterday decided I was 36 years old, which I was really pleased with as a result.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
I think they need to change their algorithms a little bit.
No, I mean, people are doing more and more exercise, more intense exercise at a later age. And so I think if you were to benchmark the average 50-year-old today versus the average 50-year-old 20, 30 years ago, you would be sort of the equivalent of a mid-30s.
Yeah, I think.
We need to start moving that benchmark up even further. So when we're 70, we have, the fitness, the strength of like a 20-year-old. So.
That's my plan. And I think posture is really important to keep that going. We're just coming out at the end of loads of lockdowns from coronavirus. Are you finding that lots of people are suddenly jumping into exercise and fitness and breaking themselves?
They don't admit they're breaking themselves, but I think a lot of people are still quite stressed, so they're not doing as much. Well, people I'm talking to, not as much high intensity exercise, so they're doing more activities. So something a little bit more therapeutic. So lots of walking, could be still hiking, some gardening, because everyone sort of got back to gardening and not neglecting it during lockdown. So yeah, some things like yoga and Pilates, a little bit more working from the inside out as well, is what I'm finding. But yes, there is definitely some aches and pains going on. But there's a lot of sort of denial as well.
So I will get fit, and I'm going to ignore the fact that it's causing me discomfort.
Yeah.
So
we've all been there.
We have all been there, haven't we? You've got this lovely little phrase, keeping stronger for longer, and that's a brilliant goal, isn't it?
It is. It's I know it's just sort of now I'm sort of past actually mid-40s, scratch the head, and it's also feeling myself. Yeah, it's just walking up the stairs, especially during lockdown. I found myself sort of dragging myself up. I'm thinking, what is going on here? I'm not exactly quote unquote weak, and also looking at my parents. They're sort of late 70s, early 80s, and I'm thinking, when did you get quote unquote old? And it's sort of thinking, yes, even though my parents are quite active, they're not moving as well as they used to, and it's just looking, and then you start looking at other people around and thinking, when did this happen? And nobody really knows when the decline started happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, functional everyday moves become a challenge. Then you start, and then when that happens, then you try less and less. And before you know it, you need more help every day. So it's sort of getting people to sort of basically change the narrative of getting older, getting weaker, getting more stiff and more aches and pains as you age. It's like, as long as we're addressing them at an earlier age, then it won't happen. Well, that's my goal.
I love it.
Strong and supple at 90. That is my...
Only 90.
That's going to be me.
I'm going for 137. I am. I'm going to be one miserable old man by then, but I'm aiming for it.
I don't see that happening. You're going to be smiling, laughing, and joking forever.
I do hope so. All right. Well, we'd better move on to three questions that I do like to pose in our podcast here. And my question number one for you, Patricia, is: Really simple question, but so many answers to this question. What is posture?
Yeah, I knew this one was coming up, and I was thinking, oh, yes, you said such a simple word, but it's just so complex. But nobody wants to hear that word. It's complex. But from me, I see posture as sort of what are you doing today, and what position you're most frequently adopting today, and then what has your body gone through to get you to where you are today. And then we also have to have an eye on what are we going to do tomorrow or next 5-10 years, because your quote unquote posture today could, if tomorrow you decided, oh, I'm going to start playing golf or tennis or start running, how your body set up today could increase the likelihood of you developing an injury if you start an activity tomorrow based on how you're moving today. Or if or maybe sort of joint wear is certain, joints quite restricted, so you'll increase your likelihood of getting a, joint replacement. So posture is always changing. So I'm sitting at the moment, so my posture is, I call it a desk body.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's, hips flexed, knees flexed, trying not to sort of slouch at the desk. So this is my body. This is my posture at the moment. And because muscles are active, muscles are alive, they shorten based on whichever position they're in. And the problem is, for every action in the body, there's a reaction. So as some muscles are getting shorter and tighter, others are getting longer and quote unquote weaker. And so therefore, it's not able to adequately support all of the joints and whatever moves you want to do. So posture is constantly changing. So we just need to make sure we're considering what our next move will be and keep moving.
So that involves a couple of elements, doesn't it? You've got the keep moving element, which is physical, and then the considering side, which is mental. And people tend to ignore the mental side when they think about posture, don't they? When I'd think about posture, I'd see a sort of a really upright figure of a man with his chest out and his chin tucked in, and almost a sort of army pose or something like that. And of course, that's not posture, and it's not necessarily good posture either. It's certainly a tense posture if we were to adopt that. Yeah, when you were talking about what you're going to do the next day, you had me thinking about someone lying on a sofa or a settee with their head craned over the back of the arm for 6 hours one night, and then jumping out of bed at 6 a.m. to go for a 5K run, and how that would impact them. That's not going to be a good thing, is it?
100%. I just sort of say you have to undo whatever posture you've been adopting and start moving gently in the positions for whichever activity you're going to adopt, just to sort of prep your body. So there is, people just think of maybe a warm up, but it's like, no, we have to even take a step back. And if you've always got like a desk body, then certain muscles are tight, so like the hip flexors. So if you're trying to run, you can't really extend at the hips, which is required. And who knows what's going on, sort of chains from the feet all the way up to sort of the head and the shoulders. So yes, it's like undoing whatever you've been doing and then prepping for the activity you're going to do.
So this kind of leads me into my second question, which is, you being a good expert with people's bodies, is how do you help people's posture? What do you do?
Yeah. So for me, my sort of focus is on the muscles and the tension or imbalances that exist. So between the front, the back, the left, the right, the above, below. I look at joints. I'm concerned with the joints, and are they actually moving through the full range that they're naturally designed to move? So I mean, when I go through people's history, sort of understand, because there might be something that they're born with as well. So we have to take all of that into consideration, and then all of how have they lived their life up to this point, which is where their posture or their how they're moving today has been determined. And one of the most important one is motor control. So are you fully in control of your movement? If I ask you to move in a certain direction, are you doing something else? Because so I find a lot of time, especially I'll actually learn this one from my mum. Hope she won't mind me saying this. But so I do some stretching with her and my mum and dad. And I just say, okay, so tilt your ear down to your shoulder, stretch the other side of the neck. And what I'll get in response is sort of like a rotation rather than a lateral flexion, because that motor control is not quite there. And I think it could have been like previous injuries and previous issues. Your body will naturally start moving away from any area of discomfort. So over time, you just learn to not move into those areas. But the problem is, if you're not moving into those areas, your body is not balanced and you're not moving correctly, and other muscles which are supposed to do a job are not doing it. So therefore, everything is out of balance. So motor control, it's like the mind, muscle connection. Are you in control of your movement? So I identify all of these through something I call a movement MOT. So just like you take your car for an MOT and service, even your boiler gets serviced, crying out loud. We use our body every single day. Do we know what's going on? Do we know where any restrictions are? Do we know, how supple we are? Our hips are balanced. Can we move the hip joint through range of motion through the same on left and right? Because the body really doesn't like too much imbalance. Yeah, we're not symmetrical. We all know that. Some people have more imbalance, more, asymmetry. No, is it asymmetry? No.
Yeah, more asymmetry.
Yes, than others. And so it's just getting back to, do you know what's going on in your body? Because we tend to have sort of shut it all out. And so all of this information will be used to design what's called a corrective exercise program. So it's to bring, more function, restore sort of natural function in the body, and sort of hopefully move you away from any joint aches and pains. And also start thinking about, well, how do you want to live? How do you want to move in 5, 10, 20, 30 years' time? Because, there's no point thinking for people, if you're 70 or 80 years old and thinking, darn, I wish I did something about this 20, 30 years ago. So it's a case of, let's start thinking now, just like you plan for your pension. How do you want to be moving later on and enjoy your big pot of money and your fancy holidays and skiing or whatever you want to do when you're in later life? Are you going to have the body and the movement capability to support all of these fantastic plans you have? So that's how I work with people.
So it's on a personalised level. Then you're not just doing a prescribed series of movements that is fit for everybody. You're looking at the person, the individual, or individuals within a group, and tailoring a program for them.
Absolutely, yes. Because a lot of us, if we're not paying attention, there will be imbalances, especially the hip, especially at the shoulder, even the ankle. So, I'm naming some of these because these are some of my issues I've had previously. And unless things are pretty similar, then you're going to put too much sort of weight or pressure on one side of the body versus the other. So even if you're quite flexible, if the imbalance between the left and right is large enough that the body's going to start overcompensating on one side, you will increase your likelihood to get it injured. You will start having more wear on one side of the body than the other. And yes, so it's sort of highlighting this in people because number one, no one told us how to look after, care for our joints. And it's because of modern day living, sitting all day, being stressed, muscles tightening up, so everything's getting restricted. We're battering ourselves in the gym or going running and things like that, when we need more calm and more restorative things to sort of balance ourselves. That, there are a ton of imbalances. Unless you're keeping on top of it, then, things can escalate out of control. So, so it's an enlightening experience, and it's also practical, as in it's not difficult to read to sort of restore balance. And also I sort of teach people this is how you do it. So you can, go forth and look after yourself for life, which is what it's all about.
Brilliant. Whether you are going to be rich and having all those golfing breaks, or whether you're going to be having beans on toast and a trip around the local budget supermarket, you still need to keep flexible and moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to be able to go shopping, without any aches and pains. If you want to walk or drive, think about even getting into your car. Do you want to struggle and it be painful? Do you want to drive comfortably in that position? Do you want to go around the supermarket with ease? So even if you're not having all these grand plans, you just want to have a simple life and, maybe do some gardening and, look after your grandkids or great grandkids fully. You still have to look after, your muscles, your joints, and how you're moving every day.
Got to look after yourself and look after number one. I think I might have to book in for one of your MOTs after this session and get and have a see how I am in terms of any imbalances. It'd be quite interesting.
Oh, looking forward
to have a third party opinion.
You know what? There's also so I have come. Sorry, diverted a bit. I come from sort of a finance background, so risk management, which is all about identification, assessment, sort of mitigation and monitoring. So you always need to practice this. So they do this in banking. You do this in the MOT. Why do we take our car for an MOT? I mean, they make it a legal requirement because I don't think people would probably be as proactive if it wasn't a legal requirement, because we want to identify issues early on before it comes something quite major. And that's what we apply risk management to every day in life. You stop, look and listen before you cross the road, hopefully, unless you're looking down at your phone, which is another issue.
Yeah.
We do all of these things every day, and we need to sort of apply the same principles to, what's going on at our joints, how we move in. Let's put a few corrective actions in place and go on.
You want to catch those people before the wheels fall off, don't you?
Yes, exactly. That's a good one. Oh, I like that. I'm going to write that line.
You can have that one, Patricia.
So
if you were going to give my final question, if you were going to give one piece of advice to our listeners today, right now, to stop their wheels falling off, what would that be?
Get curious about what's going on in your body. I think we're too scared to investigate. I mean, the other day, my friend was saying that she's looking at on YouTube on how to plaster her walls. I mean, we won't investigate, go on YouTube to look at, some ideas. Oh, how do I, stretch, or how do I, relieve tension in so-and-so? Because if we're too scared, to get curious about what's going on in your body, maintain awareness, because I mean, we're frightened of pain. As soon as there's some sort of pain or discomfort, it's like, block it out. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But it's just the body's notification system to say that there's something going on, and let's pay attention to it. It's not something to be sort of, blocked out, carry on, because yes, it's not a 10 out of 10 pain, but it's just the early warning signs that, okay, let's address it. And then, we can go on our day. But yes, maintain awareness, get curious about what's going on.
Fantastic. So those people who are curious and who don't want to block out the fact that their wheels might shortly fall off, how do they find you? Where are you on the World Wide Web?
Oh gosh, so I'm active on LinkedIn, so under my name, Patricia Goka. I'm on Instagram at Holistic PT Studio, one word. My website's the same name, www.holisticptstudio.com. I think that's it. I think if you just Google my name, something's going to come up.
You're right.
Although I did that a few years ago. There was some random woman on there thinking, right, I don't have enough online presence, so I have to start putting a lot of information.
That random lady, she'll be on Google later and she'll be going, who's this other Patricia Goka? She's outfoxed me. Why is she more popular now?
I was like, I thought I was unique. I am unique, but it's Holistic PT Studio. If you put that in better. Google, you'll come up with a few things.
Yeah, my advice to our listeners is don't go pestering any other Patricias. Go to Holistic PT Studio. Well, that's really useful, Patricia. It's a great insight into how you work, and there's some good advice there for people to be curious and to make sure they're proactive in looking after themselves so they can keep stronger for longer. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
No, you're welcome, Dave.